A very good evening to everyone, and we welcome all our viewers, all our students, those who have joined on Zoom, uh, and our guest for today evening, our program director, Professor M.M. Pansa. This is the second week of our 1 month complementary learning program, I will say, training program, learning how to learn. And in this second week, we all have together undergone good training materials, learning materials, reading material, videos towards attributes of a successful self-learner. So we'll talk more onto this topic with Professor M.M. Pansa, and all the students will also participate. They have queries, questions to ask with Professor M.M. Pansa. Before beginning that, just taking you through a few slides of ICSI. Those who have joined this week only, they should also got to know that what we are doing and what this program is all about. First of all, a very happy Hanuman Jayanti to everyone. And at the same time, today is World Voice Day. So happy World Voice Day. With this, I was reminded of a very renowned movie of Hollywood. Though our Hollywood and Bollywood at the same time, Indian cinema and foreign cinema, they were making some tremendous amount of movies dedicated to some important topics. And this particular movie, which is known as King's Speech, that is dedicated totally if you want to learn, if you want to gain confidence, if you want to learn public speaking, if you want to learn how to speak in front of thousands and thousands of people. This is one movie which guides you and at the same time entertains you. So do watch this. And where the main character of this movie says, I have a voice. So yes, every one of us have a voice. It is just how we use it, for good or for bad, for low or for high. In whatever circumstances, in whatever manner you want to use it, just make your mind that use it in a nice manner, in a very humble manner, and it should bring more confidence to you and faith in you, and at the same time brings honor to you. Your voice should be that. So happy World Voice Day. And as I'm telling you that we have started this 1 month long learning how to learn program. It's a certificate program specifically for empowering Northeast India youth, and particularly focusing on women empowerment, so girl child. So we have a good amount of students, those who are doing this program with us. And this is the week 2, where we are talking about attributes of successful self-learning. Last week we have seen learning how to learn, and sir has given answers to our some queries and important doubts related to that. And this is a joint venture between LMP Education Trust and ICSI. This is the sample of the certificate program that the students will be getting. Those who are doing, the Northeast students, those who are doing this program, they will be getting the certificate of this program at the end of the this 1 month long online program. And as I've told, it is for Northeast youth as our pilot project. And together, education skills and MSME can play an important role in Atmanirbhar Bharat. Whatever your mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. This particular message is for everyone, for all the youth. Just keep this in mind every time when you have a doubt in yourself now, whether I can do, whether I cannot. Always remember these lines. Whatever your mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Go grab it. You never know, something is waiting for you, which you will miss by not just participating into that. So just participate. That is very, very important. And we welcome our program director, Professor M.M. Pansa. He's an eminent educationist, and he has ample amount of experience of his work tenure that he has gone through, many on different profiles. And now he has dedicated his time for the youth, for us, and we are very, very intended to him for his efforts and his welcoming gesture for the students. So let's just talk with sir without wasting any more time.
So thank you, Chitraji, for that introduction and explanation about what you're doing and that thing about the voice day. So it is very interesting because one of the things that comes in is by the end of this course, you should also be able to learn how to make a speech or how to give a speech which has a huge influence. And there are techniques for it. I just want to share with you before we begin the rest of the program for the day that
Yes, sir.
hear and read a few famous speeches. You know, Barack Obama was a great orator. Read or hear his speeches. One of the most famous ones, because when she talked about I have a voice, is that of Martin Luther King Jr. He has a famous speech called I Have a Dream. You just Google that, I Have a Dream speech, and it was an amazing speech. And it also, if you go to something, they will tell you the techniques of making a good speech. So for example, in this I Have a Dream, he repeats that phrase, I have a dream, several times during that speech. Another person who's very good at speeches is Winston Churchill. He has some 3-4 very famous speeches. Each of them is a memorable speech, a very powerful speech, and so on. I don't want to repeat that, we'll get distracted, but another is John Kennedy. You know, it's very interesting. So US was the leader in technology, but in 1957, Soviet Union went ahead and launched the satellite long before the US could do it. So they launched the Sputnik in 1957. And when John Kennedy was elected in 1960, one of the first speeches he made at a university campus was that we will send an American to the moon and bring him back. And it's an amazing speech where he tries to explain why are we talking about going to the moon and why. And he said, I don't know how we will do it, but whatever it takes, we will do it. And he changed the science curriculum, so many things and so on. So it is very interesting and you should be looking at, I mean, we know Vivekananda's speech is a very famous speech in that Chicago religious conferences. So if you want to be able to communicate well, read and listen to some of these speeches and also find out some things about how to make a good speech. What is the characteristic of a good speech? And there are certain techniques in it, etc. I don't want to go into that today, but it is something that you can, again, when you're learning how to learn, you can decide, I want to learn how to make a good speech and start learning. And it's a very important thing. If you want to influence people, it is very important that you speak persuasively and you connect with the audience, you inspire them, you take them on to certain things and so on. So I will restrain myself now because I feel like telling you various speeches which have been done. You remember Jawaharlal Nehru's famous speech, at the stroke of the midnight hour when the whole world sleeps, India will wake up to freedom, and so on and so forth. So we'll leave it at that. Now, what we'll do is that I just want to share with you that, see, when I'm talking about this course, you would have by now noticed it is very different from a traditional course. This is a program or a course which is going to lead to behavioral change. Now, like what we were talking about, speeches of leaders, we were talking about becoming a learner. And in the first week, we gave you the importance, and now everybody agrees that in these times, somebody who doesn't learn enough and fast enough is going to perish. And the second week, we were talking about what are the attributes of a good learner. You see, it is learning is not information. Information you can feed to a computer and it is there. Computer has learned nothing. It has all the information. It can give you all the answers, but it has learned nothing. And this is why we talked about the behavioral aspects. So I said that, in fact, it's very interesting. Even if you look at our Bhagavad Gita has one very important component where this says, what are the attributes of a Sthitapragya person? It doesn't talk only of various things, etc., etc. And so, no, he says, what are the attributes of a Sthitapragya person? Sthitapragya is who's non-attached, etc., etc. And so on. So what are the attributes of a self-learner? And next week, we'll talk about what are the techniques that they can use. And last week, we'll talk about how they can use these modern technologies to become a better self-learner. So the 5 days that we had, I touched on 5 issues. First day, we talked about motivation. So that is very important. If you're not motivated, no learning is going to happen. Learning does not happen by transmission of information. It happens by the things that you do. I have very often said learning is not a spectator sport. You do not clap, well, Kapil Dev made a 6. That doesn't help. What are you going to do? And therefore, motivation is very important. The second thing is time management. What happens is there are so many things happening in this world. And there is Facebook and WhatsApp and LinkedIn and Instagram and TikTok and so on and so forth. So there are so many distractions. So you have to, and then you have to manage your time effectively. There are people, you will see people studying for 2 hours, but they've learned nothing. And that's why we talked about time management. Then the third day was we talked about learning agility. You must have ability to learn several things. Don't be just one-dimensional that I can do only this and not anything else. Because as we said in the very first week, when we talked about the last thing, it was about doing a lot of things. And then in the book called Range by Epstein, that you must have a range of things that you can do. And it's like saying you're a carpenter, but you have only one tool. Or you're an engineer and you know only one formula. It won't work. So you need to have that learning agility. And then we talked about a very well-known method by Tony Buzan called mind mapping. So when you want to understand something, if you want to organize knowledge, any topic, it has topics, subtopics, other topics, connected topics, and so on. How do you put it together so that you have an understanding? And the mind map is a technique which has been very popular, used by millions of people, lots of books. I shared with you a number of videos on that, and so on. And finally, what I ended up with was habits of successful people. See, this is a very important thing to remember if you want to be successful in learning, because learning also is an effort, is an endeavor, is a challenge. Not everybody is successful. That's why when you have any exam, only few people get very good marks. Most people get average marks. Few people get very low marks. What does it mean? It means that these people have not been successful in learning, whereas those who got, let's say, good grades or good marks were successful in learning. So what are the habits of successful learners? And you notice in that session, I've also given habits of unsuccessful people. That what is it that unsuccessful people do? So that you avoid the habits of unsuccessful people and try to copy or build or practice the habits of successful people. And so I think now we'll hopefully to this time, every day I said to think of questions, etc. So I hope today you are more excited, better prepared with questions and queries and observations. So Chitra, let the questions start. Otherwise, I can keep on talking.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sure. Thank you. Thank you for that summarizing the entire week, sir. So, dear students, as last time, Sangha Mitra initiated the question answers. So today, who is going to initiate? Who want to ask first? The first question. You can unmute your mic and you can ask. So please unmute your mic and you can ask the question. Sangha Mitra, Mutsoi, Mary. Yes. Please. Sangha Mitra, aap please पूछिए. Okay, right. You can write. The student is writing that they want to write in chat box. Okay,
right,
sir.
Let them write on the chat box. You may read it out for me.
Hanji, sure, sir, sure.
Yeah.
Please write in the chat box and we can take your question from there. So till the time the students are writing, I want to ask one question from you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
That is again from one of the student only. So if you can just make us understand what is metacognitive skills.
Okay, very good. See, you will hear the word meta very often. Meta means about. So you have data and metadata. You have physics and metaphysics. And nowadays, all of you who are young and following Mark Zuckerberg know that metaverse is being talked about this thing. So meta means about. So when we say metacognition, it means about learning. Now, So, for example, when you say data, data can be the name of a person, the address, height, weight, whatever. Metadata means this is the name of the person. So, field number 1 is the name of the person. Field number 2 is the date of birth. Field number 3 is it. That is called the metadata. So, metacognition means how do I learning? What kind of thing do I like to learn? What is my speed of learning? What is the best time of the day when I like to learn? Some people like to learn early in the morning. Some people like to learn otherwise, and so on. What is my span of attention of learning? That is also part of metacognition. Can I pay attention only for 5 minutes, or can I pay attention for hours and hear a lecture which is even of 2 hours long? So all these things become part of metacognition and therefore describe an individual learning style. And that's why we say all learners are unique and different. Yes.
Right. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. And Sangha Mitra is asking the question, sir.
Yeah.
If you allow, I can ask.
Sure, sure.
So often we get some idea and we are motivated and
Good.
do that thing. But then after some time, we get distracted and we
Yeah.
get confused.
Okay.
What do we have to say about this, sir?
No, this is very normal. See, in fact, I say this very often. I ask in my lectures very often, what is learning followed by? And people will say all kinds of things, and I tell them they're forgetting. So, see, one of the first things that happens, you have an idea, you're very excited about it, but then the idea collides with the real world where it is not moving forward. But you have to again have a sustained mode. So this is the difference between being distracted and being not distracted. A very nice book called Indistractable by Nee Riyal. So you have to then go back, and you can go agree with that I'm being distracted, or whether come back to it again. This is what means you are obsessed with an idea. So an idea comes to you, you go along with the idea, and after a while, it drifts away. But if you're obsessed with the idea, you will come back to it again next morning, or after a nap, or 3 days later. And almost, see, I used to have a colleague in IIT Kanpur when I was faculty. Whenever he had a problem, everyone whom he will meet, he will start asking about the problem. So can you tell me how this happens? Can you tell me how that happens? Can you tell me where I can get this? Can you tell me? So this is called being obsessed with what you want to do. So don't give up on that idea. Ideas will tend to fade away. At one point of time, they look very exciting. Then they move away. But then again, you can restart and pursue the idea further. And what will happen that when you do it again, this is why we call reinforcement learning. When you come to that idea again, you will probably understand it better and be able to do it more. So stick to the idea, pursue the idea, get obsessed with the idea. And all great scientists, in fact, Einstein has a very famous quote. Einstein says, it is not that I am brighter than you, but that I stay with that problem much longer than you do. Most of us find a problem very difficult and we go away, do something else. Start looking at Ranbir Kapoor and Alia's wedding photographs. So don't do that. Come back to the idea that you were pursuing and say, let me take this idea further. Okay?
Right. So, sir, somewhere passion also plays in part into that. If you are passionate, you will learn.
Yeah, sure. So the passionate is the same thing about obsession, coming back to it again. And in fact, very interestingly, recently we had Easter and we had Christ crucifixion, and there's an expression called the Passion of Christ. And it all talks about the pain associated with the process. So passion always entails pain. And this is a very interesting thing. So if you are obsessed with an idea, you're passionate about an idea, there will be pain in making that thing happen. And then, of course, you start getting that feeling of success, etc. You'll be able to translate that idea into action, product, idea, movement, whatever you wanted to do with that idea.
Right. So, Sangha Mitra, I am sure that sir has answered your query, your question. Please unmute your mic if you want to say something. Okay, we'll move to next question, sir. Ms. Krishna Sharma. Krishna Sharma has asked, sir, can you please provide more insight on the concept of Vanity Matrix?
Oh, very good. See, when we want to do something, we must have a measured goal for it. This was said by Lord Kelvin, also said in the management field. If you cannot measure what you want, you cannot make any progress. Now, so whatever is the measure you use is called matrix. So in management and project things and so on and so forth, you say this is the matrix. So you, for example, can say, I want to reduce my weight by 2 kilograms. I want to become fitter, or I want to learn more. I want to be able to spend 2 more hours every day learning, or I want to learn this. So you take some targets, and the measures of that target is what is called the matrix. Vanity matrix is when it has nothing to do with the issue. It has nothing to do with helping improvement. It is only a number which you are very happy with. So, for example, you will hear this very often. 1 lakh people did yoga simultaneously. Fine. So, what effect does it have? Or so many people were in that crowd or meeting, or so many things. So, these are called vanity metrics. That even with respect to an educational institution, you will say, we have granite floor, we have air-conditioned buses. Now, what have air-conditioned buses got to do with, let's say, better learning? You can say, well, if the person is not this thing, he might do, but that's a very indirect consequence. So vanity matrix is something where you can, but sometimes very often you will hear that some such and such political person came and inaugurated my seminar. So what does that have to do with your seminar and quality of your seminar? That somebody has come and done it. So vanity matrix means you are excited about it. It is a talking point. You think it is very important to do, but it has nothing to do with the job at hand, with the task at hand, with the goal at hand, and so on and so forth.
Right. And so is like we are happy with our Facebook account and followers and social media followers. That is also vanity.
Sure,
metrics?
anything which hasn't got anything to do. It can even be the other things. I go and feed a lot of poor people. Now, what has that got to do with becoming a better public speaker? Right? So the point we are saying is it is not only vanity in that sense of the word. You may be doing a great job in some sense, but with the task at hand, it is not correlated. With another task, it may be a very important, useful metrics. So in terms of your serving the society, it may be a very useful matrix that I am doing this. So this is why we have to be careful that you learn to be able to focus. The issue that somebody said, we have an idea and then you get distracted and then you get into something else. That I posted it and there were so many likes. That is the vanity matrix, because how does it help? You feel happy, but it's not relevant to the issue that we were talking about.
Right, sir. Krishna, you want to say something? Please unmute your mic if you want to say something. Okay. She's saying, thank you, sir. I'm clear on this point. Very good. Sir, there's another question being asked by Mutsui. Mutsui is asking, sir, I want to learn more about epigenetics.
Very good.
It is said that we are what our grandparents ate.
Absolutely.
But can one change that? And if how?
No. See, the point was that there was a belief earlier that everything is determined by your genes, or in fact by your ancestry, hereditary. At one time it was your blood. Then we come into genetics and we had the genome project, so everything is determined by your gene. But now they realize that genes have only so much of an effect, because all that genes actually do is that they tell what proteins to be made by certain enzymes. Epigenetics is a whole lot of things. See, just like we said meta, epi also means beyond genetics. Now, then you say epigenetics, it means which is something beyond genetics. And therefore, it is what happens that your grandparents were born with certain genes, but what they ate influenced their body, and therefore the genes that were transmitted to you are different, not unadulterated genes of their parents. They were modified in that sense. So that is why it is called epigenetics. Now, this has become very interesting because we don't want to condemn people. That then you have a fatal approach to life. I can do nothing. This is what my genes are. So what epigenetics says, you can change that also, and your offspring will then get a different set of genes. Otherwise, you say the whole thing is condemned with whatever genes you have. So epigenetics is using these things like diet and so on and so forth to change your thing. But there's another thing which is happening, which is gene editing. So there are tools like what is called CRISPR, where you can actually edit the sequence of DNA, sequence of the base pairs in your DNA. So, the DNA consists of adenine, thymine, cytosine, guanine, A, T, and C. G. A is always connected to T, C is always connected. So this is like the zeros and ones on a computer. So just like you can edit software, you can edit your DNA also. You can edit any DNA. And CRISPR is a technique for doing that. Of course, there are limitations. It is still new. There are dangers with respect to it, but people are trying to do that. The conclusion is that genes do not determine everything.
Okay. Right, sir. Thank you. Mutsui, if you want to say something, you can. We want to hear you also, beta. If you can just unmute your mic and you can say something. Otherwise, we'll take the next question, Mutsui. I hope you have got your answer. So the next question has been asked by Krishna again. She's asking that, sir, there was a point where it was mentioned about using apps that help in time management.
Yes.
But we have other apps that are more tempting. So we end up wasting much time. How do we change that?
See, it's like everything in life. You have to choose what you want. See, we are in an age where there are so many things you can do, including learning. So I have a whole thing on what is worth learning. Now, therefore, you choose an app which you need. Now, if you are pressed for time management, you will use an app which helps you in time management. There are many apps which will do all kinds of things. Sometimes even they will tell you what are your good qualities, what are your bad qualities, what you should do to improve your good quality, what you should do to reduce the effect of your bad quality and make better habits. So app is only a kind of a computer program to help you do something for which principles are there. So the general principles are we must all have good habits. We must reduce our bad habits, throw our habits. How do we change our habits? There are methods for that. What the app does is help you identify that. So for example, if you're into a fitness regime, the app will tell you how many steps you walked, how many miles you walked, how much time did it take, how many calories you burned, and so on and so forth. Now it is for you to keep changing that. And it can even say if you're ordering some junk food, it will say, don't eat this food, this is not good for you, and so on and so forth. Now, what apps we will use and whether you will obey what the app is saying is entirely up to you.
Right. So, okay. She's saying thank you, sir. She understood. Yeah. Okay. So, before anyone else asks questions or they are writing, I would also like to ask another question from user. They're asking, what is the meaning of attributes of a successful self-learner?
Yeah, so it is, in simple terms, we all set out to learn something. Have you been able to learn it? That is a successful learner. Now, you can put it in what does it take to be a self-learner? So I've said attributes of a successful learner. Attributes basically means features or qualities or whatever. You can put in a simple, what does it take to be a self-learner? What do I have to do in order to be a self-learner? So that I use that was, for example, in the Gita, they say, sthita pragya ke kya lakshana hai. So these are the things that, what are the attributes of a person who's a good self-learner? So what you can, if that word attribute actually is like a feature, qualities, distinguishing aspect, etc. Or you can put it in a certain way that what do I need to do to be a self-learner? So that is what we are talking about. So you need to be motivated, you need to manage your time, you have to avoid distraction, you have to have learning agility, you need to create mind maps, and so on and so forth.
Right, sir. So this question has been asked by Nabam, and a similar question I would also like to ask. This is similar to the question that Nabam has asked just now. So the question is how to develop a self-directed learning mindset.
Yeah. See, the point is, it is when we talk about motivation, there are two There are, of course, many kind of things, but I will simply talk here now as intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation is that when you have some external thing, if I come first, there is an ad I see of quality walls ice cream. बेटे फर्स्ट आओगे तो ये वाली आइसक्रीम मिलेगी, सेकंड आओगे तो ये आइसक्रीम मिलेगी, सिर्फ पास हो जाओगे तो ये वाली मिलेगी, and so on. This is extrinsic motivation. You want to do well in the exam because you will get some ice cream. You may also say, if you do well, you will get it to IIT or NEET or medical college or this or that, whatever. All these are extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is when the fact that you've learned something which you did not know before gives you joy. And this is what is going to lead. So when you say self-directed means that I am curious as to how things happen, why things happen. And I have now found that answer at the level at which I am happy with. We don't know the ultimate answers. We can keep on asking. We don't have answers at final atomic level. For example, you may be wanting to know, okay, so this is the coronavirus. So how does the vaccine help? And what is the difference between a vaccine and a medicine? So you become self-directed. Now you start finding this key. What is the difference between a vaccine and a medicine? So this is how, for everything that you see around, what is the difference between a helicopter and an aeroplane? What is the difference between a drone and a helicopter? What is the difference between an aeroplane and a rocket? What is the difference between an ordinary rocket and Elon Musk's rocket, which comes back to the same place from where it started? So it's all this makes you a self-directed learner. That if you have the question, the other thing is you have no question, no answers. Something is being asked in the exam, and if I do well in the exam, I will get either pistachio ice cream or I get admission to a good college. That is an external motivation. Okay. Right. So the idea of a self-directed learner, you have more and more intrinsic motivation. That learning itself is what gives you. And learning does not mean only one method. You might want to do it in a different way also. So even in mathematics, when you're told how to do this, that is one thing, you learn that, but you might also, let me see, I have another way of doing it also. So that all is part of self-directed learning.
Right, sir. So that intrinsic motivation, does the environment, the surroundings where you are living, that also plays an important part, sir?
Very, very much. See, for example, as we said, why do we go to a good institution? We go to a good institution because all other students are also learning lots of things and you would want to be pulled up by them. There's a very important statement that you are the average of the 6 people that you interact with. So if you interact with people who are all very good, then you will also push up. So for example, as I said, I've been part of the IIT system. What happened in the IIT? Right from first year, they're thinking, will I go to Caltech? Will I go to MIT? Will I go to Purdue? Will I go to this? So the whole mental thing is, how do I get to Caltech? How do I get to MIT? It is extrinsic to some extent, but it is a collective set of formation. But very soon you will realize that they will start getting into the more fundamental things. That how do I understand about this? Because this is what is important for me to go to Caltech. So sometimes the final motivation may be an extrinsic motivation, but the way towards that may be an intrinsic motivation.
Right. Yes, sir. Okay, sir. So the next question is, how do we search information beyond our filter bubble? A bubble search engine, social media networks have put us in. So we have a certain perspective and how to go beyond that.
Yeah. So see, it is very simple. So now it depends. For example, one very, this is a whole course it can be as to what are the techniques for searching for something. When you make a simple query in Google, you will get the answer which are most popular, which are most familiar, or which have advertisers have paid for, and so on and so forth. That is what they will come. When you have to search, it is like mining. So what happens in mining? Precious minerals are deep inside and you have to dig for them, find for them, and that is why it is called mining. Nowadays, you must have heard words like data mining, which means from large amount of data, you have to go and get the relevant data. So this is what you have to do. You have to look at techniques. So first you may ask a broad question, then you may refine the question. You may ask the opposite question and so on. Like if you remember, I said, what are the habits of successful people? what are the habits of unsuccessful people. So this is also a way of searching, because the opposite of the habits of unsuccessful people will be useful for you, and so on and so forth. So this is all a series of things that you do about searching. Then what you do is you try to see that where are you getting the information from? Is it an authoritative source? Is it just random thing? Somebody has posted that thing, no? Or is it from a doctor? Is it from a scientist? Is it a research paper published somewhere which is being referred to? So this is now, somebody had asked about meta. Now this is again about meta. So you're looking at the meta results. So the results is what Google is showing, but the meta results mean you're looking at where this has come from, who this is doing. Is this a propaganda? Is this advertising, or is this research? And so on and so forth. And you have to sometimes frame the same question in a number of different ways, so the nuances of that search will show that up.
Right, sir. Right.
Okay.
Please unmute your mic to ask another question. Students? Yes, please. You can ask your question yourself also.
Yeah.
Your voice is not reaching to us. If there's some disturbance, you can write in the chat box and we can then ask that. Sir, related to this, there is another question that as a student, as a young children, those who are learning new things and gaining knowledge and doing research, so how do we not fall prey to the fake newses or misinformations?
See, you have to develop. See, that's why that metaphor of vaccine is very important. What does a vaccine? In fact, it is not only before you come to vaccine. We humans have what is called an immune system. As human beings, living organisms, we are constantly attacked by people who want to attack our biology. These are called pathogens. They can be bacteria, they can be viruses, they can be fungi, they can be various things, they can be actual animals also as predators. Now, our immune system actually helps fight them. Our first thing of immune system is our skin. So if you will notice, many of the things are not able to penetrate because the skin is a very big barrier. It is the first level of this thing. And that is why when you have a wound, you've been hurt, or there's a wound, or there is some puncture in the skin, then you see suddenly lots of things start coming up and pus starts forming and so on and so forth. Then you have a number of other kind of things that immuno cells and etc. etc. Same thing has happened now. You get all kinds of information, and you have to be mature enough to be able to do that. Now, as you said, if you're a young child, you're not quite sure, ask an elder whom you trust. And remember the word elder whom you trust, because the elder himself may be trying to corrupt you. So you have to find an elder whom you can trust and then look at that. And this is how you would do, like when you are, let's say, crossing the road, you hold the hands of an elder person who help you cross the road. So if you're navigating the internet, you should hold the hand of somebody else, whether you're crossing the road or going to a fair or going to a busy market, etc. You keep some other elderly person in whom you have confidence to help you navigate. Do the same thing with the internet, because in purely you could go anywhere, click anywhere, and get all kinds of things, but it is better to have that. Some parents try to put these as safety things, that certain sites you can't see, certain things you can't do. It's called parental control, parental guidance. But eventually you have to learn yourself, and whether thing looks suspicious, etc. And as I said, from where it is coming, is it reliable, so on and so forth.
Right, sir. Thank you. Hansen, Mary, we have ample amount of time. Don't worry about it. You just unmute your mic and you can easily ask the questions. So who's going to ask the next question? Okay, sir. We have also seen that a good amount of information has been given on mind mapping as well. And
Yes.
mind mapping is something which is being used by the educators as well as by the students.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, to form the notes and everything. So
Hmm.
where this how to begin it?
See, just
When
start
the
using it. See, the point is, in many cases, what happens is you have to start using it. If you look at the videos that I shared, and Tony
yes.
Buzan, in fact, Tony Buzan has a number of books on it also, and so on and so forth. So he says it is helpful in organizing ideas. In a traditional book, you have
Mm,
table of contents, chapters, subheadings, and so on and so forth. So you don't see the relations between the things. Whereas he
mm,
says, when we see, and that's why it is sometimes called radiant thinking. So you begin with the core thing that you want to understand, then see what are the other elements of it. And he doesn't draw straight lines, he says draw curvy lines because it is not a straight kind of a jacket thing. And I say in that thing, for example, in computer thing, people draw a flow chart, which is a very specific thing. If, then, else, where is the input coming from? Where is the output going to? Here you are putting all these things together, and then he expects you to draw such curvilinear lines, use color, etc., and therefore try to figure out. Again, the point is that you this is a way of expressing, so you can always talk to others, your peer group, your this thing, your teacher, whatever, and then ask them to comment on what you have created. Because when, as the videos also say, each mind map is almost unique. So when you've created your mind map of something and somebody else has created another mind map for the same thing, look and see where the similarities are, where the differences are, what has he picked up that I missed out, what is it that I have picked up that he missed out, and so on and so forth. So a mind map is a way of thinking, but writing your thoughts.
right, sir. There's another question being asked. Sometimes our surroundings, like our family and friends, also prohibit us from being an agile learner and keeping an open mind to learning new and different things. What can we do? What
No,
can
I
be
think,
done then?
see, the answer is very simple. And I
Mm-hmm.
say this very often to young people, and I say that respect your elders, but don't have to obey them. The reason is, and I have no hesitation in saying this, and they have no idea of what the world is today and what it is going to be tomorrow. So they
Mm-hmm.
belong to that old mindset where it was that एक कार है सब करे और ये सब होता है. So they are trying to do one thing and do one thing well. In fact, when we were young, there used to be a phrase for it called jack of all trades and master of none. But today it is very different. Today you have to be a jack, no, not only a jack, can be a Jill of all trades and master of some. So that is what people are saying. That book Range also says that, Agility also says that, everything says you have to know more than one thing. A highly specialized person is not so useful as a person who knows a number of things and especially can put them in context. So this is like, and if your elders don't do that, either try to explain to the elders that things have changed and there are so many new things that have happened, or just follow. So
Right, sir.
this is one of the most harmful things that can happen if you get guided by the elders.
Right.
And I'm saying this at some risk. For example, Amit Shah is telling you, don't study English, study Hindi. Now,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, you don't want to be guided by him. You cannot help drive sense into his head, but refuse to get guided by him. Learn English well, learn English as much. If you can get something in Hindi, also fine, go ahead. But just because Amit Shah is home minister and an elderly person, what he says is not right. And especially for your future. He may be right for his own thing, but for your future, knowing English and maybe knowing Japanese and knowing Chinese and etc. may be more useful things.
Gee, that's why I asked you earlier also that surroundings do play a role in
Yeah,
self.
but you have to see, it is very interesting. uh, while surroundings play a role and people want to dominate, if you want to be anything, you have to emerge differently.
Yes,
You
sir.
have to go and figure out. And that's what I said. Children today have to be more mature than they were earlier. Earlier, it was all right because, see, I will tell you the reason. Reason
Yes.
was the world was not changing. And therefore, senior people knew what the world is like and they were preparing you for the world. The world is changing today. In fact, if you know, during the corona crisis, all those who were familiar with technology were the ones who could do. All the ones who would insist that no, this is no way of learning, only teacher teaching in a classroom is the way of learning, they are perishing.
Mhm.
So you don't have to go very far. This is, you're seeing it just here and now in the last 2 years, that what was considered the ideal model, that you must go to school every day, attend class, this, that, does not work.
Right, sir.
And you are again seeing the return of the coronavirus.
Mhm.
So it is not gone and over. It is not like one time it was something and over. And again, you're talking about senior people. Your prime minister was saying it will go in 18 days. No, he said Mahabharat war was in 18 days. Corona will be in 21 days.
Okay.
So the seniors don't know. I mean, there is no hesitation. Let them prove it by some facts. Let them support their argument with evidence. But just because they say so, don't listen to them. If they have data and argument, very good.
Right. Thank you, Krishna, for your question, beta. And another question has been asked by Sir Mary. She is saying, sir, usually there is a huge challenge in self-learning as an overall, like information overloaded, inadequate coping skills. How do we deal with it?
See, this looks at first sight. But once you decide that what you want to do, say you even see a small child. You have a small child, you can give him lots of food in front of him. He may be overwhelmed for a while, but after a while he understands what he wants to eat and what he doesn't want to eat. So there is no question. See, this idea that everything you must know or learn is the incorrect one. And you decide what you want to learn for today. Next day, you will learn something else. In future, you are going, because one very important difference that has happened between your grown-ups and you, your grown-ups have had a finite amount of schooling, either 12 years in school or 16 years in school or up to MSc or even up to PhD. It was finite amount of schooling. You are going to be lifelong learners. So whatever you need, whenever you need, you will be able to learn. You don't have to be overwhelmed with it.
Right.
Yeah.
So there are still students, if you want to ask, we have few more minutes and we can put those questions in front of sir and he can answer your question. If you have, otherwise, I think, sir, everything that was being put on the WhatsApp group is self-explanatory. And
But
they have
you
imbibed
see,
it.
the idea, my main idea is, and I'm actually quite pleased that today there are more questions than were last week.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And
yes, sir.
This is the point. This is the point that
Ji.
learning happens when you start thinking. Like so many questions were asked, they were very important thing. This is what the model of learning is not of rote learning what was told.
Ji.
Model of learning is, as I said, it's a very, in my language, it is learning by figuring out, not learning by being told. Now, the more experienced person helps you in figuring out. So as you will see, I will be able to give you examples of books and authors, etc., etc. But you have to start figuring out. And you should develop almost an attitude that if I want to learn something, I will figure out and ask for help on the way. Just like you want to travel on road to some place, you might ask, so how do I go from here to there? You don't have to know everything before you start. But you know broad directions, you know north, south, east, west, and you know broad roads, you know the highways, you know this thing, and you then ask somebody, okay, how do I go from here to here? So as a learner, as a self-directed learner, you will say, I know this, I want to know this, what is the best path for me to be able to do that? That is where meta-learning will come in, where metacognition will come in, where your habits will come in, where your disposition will come in, because the path for you and the path for somebody else may be different.
Right. And students always remember that every question is important. And no question is like, if you say that it is useless, whether I should ask or not, every question is important. So whatever is coming to your mind, just ask. So another question has come, sir. Could you
Yeah.
suggest us with some useful books that could help us in life? Sangha Mitra has asked this question.
See, you will have to say something more specific. But I'm a great believer in reading. I, as I have
Right.
said, that you have to read every time I give a number of books. So your question can be answered more specifically if you say, can you suggest a book which helps me with this? There are
Right.
so many self-help books. When we were young, there were two very famous books by Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And there was a thing, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. And you have seen Napoleon Hill. And so there are many motivational books.
Uh,
Robin, yeah. So if you tell me what kind of thing you would like, I would be able to.
yeah. So,
Talk.
sir, any book that can give the kind of right direction to the youth in their life?
See, no, I don't want to suggest to you one book which will give, because you see, you have to find your own direction. The biggest problem is that when you ask somebody to give direction, he is giving his view of the world, that you should be doing this, you should lay down your life for your country. Not necessarily. I want to do a life to change the whole world.
Right.
So therefore, I think you think a little bit more, because you have to start looking at this thing. And there are many stories, many things. And one of the important things is a story, I think, of Nachiketa, so where it starts by doing the other way around. Start making a list of what you don't want to do. So I don't want to be an engineer. I don't want to be a lawyer. I don't want to be an IAS. I don't want to be a this thing. Start from that, and then maybe you will have some idea as to what you want to do, and so on and so forth. So there are many books on making choices and so on and so forth. But in general, it is a question of looking at various things, thinking, but you have to have something. There is a word for the Japanese, and it has now become very popular, called ikigai. Now,
Right.
if there is one thing, just do a Google search for Ikigai, and you will get some small books, free books, etc. on Ikigai. Now, Ken Robinson talks to it about element. Ken Robinson says, find out your element, and once you know your element, it changes your career. Again, you can see various talks, YouTube talks, etc. by Ken Robinson on element and how knowing your element changes your life. Uh, but basically, what Ken Robinson says, element is where your passion meets your aptitude. But Ikigai goes beyond. Ikigai gives you a number of concentric circles, including there is a very interesting thing. He says you may be passionate about it, you want to do it about it, you are skilled in it, and so on. And then it asks you, will people pay for it? So it's another very important element, that you are great about something, but if nobody is willing to pay for it, then there is no point in getting involved with it. So Ikigai is a very practical kind of a thing. Whereas when people talk about passion, this, that, they are not saying how it will happen. They say, no, you think. You think if I do this, 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 then will people pay me for it? And if they're not, then that's not an activity worth pursuing. Just because you are passionate about it doesn't mean a thing.
So Sanghamitra sir has given us a few good suggestions. And if you want to go for a specific thing, do write about some specific topic if you want to ask. Dubara, you can ask another question onto that. Otherwise, sir has given some good suggestions of books and material to read. So there is another question asked by Poonam. She's writing, sir, you have shared a lot on habits, and I believe environment really affect an individual developing good or bad habits. Mental
Yeah.
health and learning. Can you share your opinion onto it?
So see, habits have been talked about for a long time. And basically, what is a habit is something which you do repeatedly without applying your mind to it. So one is a conscious decision where you have to apply your mind. A habit is something which you have practiced so much that it happens automatically. So we get up in the morning, go to the bathroom, start brushing our teeth, etc., etc., and so on. That has become habit. Now, so this is the point. So what people say is develop good habits that will save you time and energy. And there's a very nice book on this called Atomic Habits. And but it is not only those people's books. I will give you that. I don't know in India how much you are aware. We just celebrated Mahavir Jayanti recently. In Jainism, there is a concept called Anuvrat. So Anuvrat or Anuvrat, which means small vows. Don't make a big vow. I will do this and change the world, etc. No, do simple atomic kind of a thing called Anuvrat. So Anuvrat means if you are sleeping too much, I will reduce my sleep by 15 minutes every day. If you're not studying enough, I will study 15 minutes more every day. Almost to the extent that you say every day I will become better by a certain amount. And things which you can do easily. Don't take big things which you can't do. So Anuvrat is a very interesting concept. It's a part of our Jain philosophy and is exactly this, that you keep on improving yourself. When I was young, there was to be something in school we were taught. Day by day, in every way, I'm getting better and better. So just say, I will become better. If your handwriting is not good, I will make my handwriting better. If my spelling is not good, I will make my spelling better. If my grammar is not good, I will make my grammar better. If my punctuation is not good, I will make my punctuation better. If after I get up in the morning, I do not do my bed, so from tomorrow when I get up in the morning, I will do my bed, not wait for somebody else to do it. These are small, small habits which then create a pattern where you become responsible for yourself, self-directed, and you can become better and better in whatever way you need to be.
Thank you for your valuable input, sir. And thank you, Poonam, for asking this question. Another question asked by Mutsoi. She's saying that under learning agility, the approach
Yes.
to predict an individual's potential for future success based exclusively on past performance and demonstrated skills was flawed. Why?
Yeah, because you see, because the future that you will get is not going to be exactly what you did in the past. So, for example, in the past, in the classroom, you did very well. In real life, you're not in a classroom. So, you may not be able to do that well because you could do that in a classroom thing. Also, very interesting, you see this, we've seen this as educators. Between school and college, sometimes there's a big difference. But in school, your parents, your teachers, everybody is making you disciplined and the moment you do college, they want you to do other things, go to the movies, drink some beer, do this, etc., and performance comes down. I've seen in IIT first year suddenly from topper to F because things change. So therefore, past performance is no guarantee of future success. This is the important message that people are talking about. And since times change, environment change, you change, challenges change, you have to be able to do it differently. And that's why agility means doing well, learning all the time, every time, and so on and so forth. That's why the word agility is there, as opposed to fixed kind of a thing.
Right, sir. I hope, Mutsoi, you have got your answer. If you want to say something, you can unmute your mic. And if somebody else also want to ask, they are most welcome. Otherwise, for today, sir, we'll wind up this session, and we'll get next week with another topic.
Yeah.
So your Mutsoi is saying thank you, sir. So, sir,
Okay.
To end this webinar, your end remarks for this session.
See, the first thing is that I am pleased that already I'm seeing a change in the attitude of the people. So you've already
Yes,
got, I think, next session, even before I say good evening, you will be ready with your questions. So and your comments.
yes.
And then the follow-up questions. See, this shows you are now beginning to learn. And this is the big challenge. A big challenge with our education is that learners have become passive learners. You tell us something, we will try to remember it, memorize it, and if you ask it, we will repeat in the same words. The fact that you are looking at, and I was most pleased with the kind of questions that were asked. What is metacognition? What is this thing? Otherwise, normally people immediately say metacognition is this, whatever. So that is a very important thing. And the by purpose of this course, I mean, I have no hesitation saying this is a brand new course which nobody else has ever done in India. And we're telling people how to learn to learn. And it is important for school people, university people, lifelong learners, everybody to really get part of it. And once this happens, you will see you're a completely different person. You will become a person who will say, I can learn anything. I don't need somebody's permission and something to be able to learn, and I can learn by figuring out. And as I do more and more of this, I will become a better and better learner. Okay.
Thank you so much, sir. With this, I want to tell all my viewers that we are having a very good time and we are gaining knowledge under the dynamic guidance and knowledge sharing by Professor M.M. Pansa. And all the students, those who are part of this particular program, they are also enlightened with the way, their own way, and something new is happening. And we are witnessing every week that thing live on YouTube with our Saturday webinar at 8 p.m. So keep learning, keep growing, and keep asking. And keep your minds, your cerebrum, your brain open to new learnings, new ways, new things. With this, we want to say goodbye to everyone for today, with this promise that we will come back next week in the same program with a new topic. Thank you so much.
Great. Good night. Thank you. Happy learning.
Thank you, sir.